I stood in the center of my parents' living room, USB drive in hand, watching my mother's face drain of color as the projector screen lit up behind me. The banner outside their house read, "Congratulations, Madison Monroe, for saving our family home," in cheerful letters, but the numbers on the screen told a different story. $72,000. 3 years of my life. And not a single dollar had come from my sister. My father had been mid-sentence praising Madison for her generosity and sacrifice when I walked in uninvited. The room full of relatives had turned to stare at me, some with curiosity, others with barely concealed irritation. I wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't even supposed to know about this party. "Dad," I said, my voice cutting through his speech like a blade through butter, "you forgot a slide." If you're enjoying this story of family betrayal and ultimate vindication, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in my situation. Your support means everything. Now let me take you back to where this all began. 3 months earlier, I had been sitting at that same dining room table, my hands folded in my lap, trying to make myself invisible. It was a skill I had perfected over 28 years. My mother's voice had cut through the air like it always did, sharp and dismissive. "You're not half the woman your sister is, Haley." The words weren't new. I had heard variations of them my entire life. What was new was what I did next. Instead of shrinking into my chair, instead of swallowing the hurt and reaching for my water glass with shaking hands, I pushed my chair back. The screech of wood against hardwood floor silenced the room. I stood up, looked my mother directly in the eyes, and said something I had never said before. "If she's so wonderful, then let her pay your mortgage." My mother's face went slack. My father, who had been carefully studying his mashed potatoes, finally looked up. The shock on their faces would have been comical if my heart hadn't been hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't wait for a response. I grabbed my purse, walked out the front door, and drove home in silence. My hands didn't start shaking until I was safely in my apartment door, locked back, pressed against the wood. What had I just done? Let me back up further. Let me tell you how I became the invisible woman in my own family. I was 7 years old the first time I realized I was different from Madison. We were at a school science fair. I had won second place for my project on solar energy. I had spent weeks building a model house with working solar panels, researching how photovoltaic cells converted sunlight into electricity, preparing my presentation. My parents had driven me to the fair, sat through the judging, and politely clapped when my name was called. On the drive home, my mother spent the entire time on the phone with Madison's dance instructor, discussing my sister's upcoming recital. My blue ribbon sat on the back seat beside me. When we got home, my father carried in Madison's dry cleaning. My ribbon stayed in the car for 3 days until I retrieved it myself. Madison was the Sunday. I was a distant planet, cold and forgotten. It wasn't that Madison was cruel. She wasn't. She was simply everything I wasn't. Charismatic where I was quiet. Artistic where I was analytical. She lit up rooms with her presence while I faded into the wallpaper. And my parents, like everyone else, were drawn to her light. I learned to be okay with it. Or at least I learned to pretend I was okay with it. I threw myself into my studies. Mathematics became my refuge. Numbers didn't play favorites. Equations didn't love one daughter more than another. When I graduated high school as valedictorian, my parents attended the ceremony but left early to catch Madison's art show opening. When I graduated from college, summa cum laude, with a degree in finance, my mother's only comment was, "That's nice, dear. Very practical." But I kept trying. I got a job as a financial analyst at a prestigious firm in Portland. I was good at it. Better than good. I could look at a spreadsheet and see patterns others missed, could predict market trends with uncanny accuracy. My boss called me invaluable. My mother called me every few months to ask if I had met anyone yet, because Madison had just gotten engaged and wasn't that wonderful. I bought practical furniture for my practical apartment and told myself I was happy. I had a good job, decent friends, and a family that, while not perfect, was still family. That was enough. It had to be enough. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening in March. I was working late as usual, reviewing quarterly reports in my quiet office. My phone buzzed. "Mom." I almost didn't answer. Our conversations had become increasingly one-sided, with her talking about Madison's wedding plans while I made appropriate noises at appropriate intervals. But I answered. "Haley, sweetie," her voice was different. Smaller. Scared. "We need to talk." My father had lost a major contract. Their mortgage was 3 months behind. The bank was threatening foreclosure. They needed $20,000 immediately or they would lose the house. What about Madison? I asked, already knowing the answer. You know your sister's getting married, honey. All her money is tied up in the wedding. And you're so good with finances. You're so strong. You've always been the strong one. The strong one. That's what they called me when they needed something. Not the smart one. Not the successful one. The strong one. The one who could handle being forgotten because she was strong enough not to need validation. I looked at my computer screen at the spreadsheet I had been working on for my own finances. I had been saving for 3 years. $7,200 sat in my account earmarked for a down payment on a condo. Not much by most standards, but it was mine. I had saved it dollar by dollar, skipping lunches, taking the bus, instead of maintaining my aging car, saying no to dinners with friends. But it was my parents. They had raised me, fed me, put a roof over my head for 18 years. How could I say no? I'll need to check my accounts, I said, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. Oh, thank you, baby. Thank you so much. We knew we could count on you. You've always been so responsible. We'll pay you back, of course. As soon as your father gets back on his feet. This is just temporary. I hung up and stared at the photo I kept in my desk drawer. It was a picture of a small condo I had been dreaming about. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, a balcony overlooking the river. I had driven by it so many times I had memorized every detail. The realtor's number was saved in my phone. I opened my banking app. My finger hovered over the transfer button. $20,000. It would wipe out my savings completely and then some. I would have to take out a personal loan for the rest. All those years of sacrifice gone in a single transaction. But they were my parents. I transferred the money. Just this once, my mother had said. We'll pay you back. I knew it was a lie. Some part of me, the part that had spent 28 years being invisible, knew they had no intention of paying me back. But I told myself I was being cynical. Ungrateful. What kind of daughter would I be if I didn't help my family in their time of need? The kind of daughter who had somewhere to live, apparently. The money disappeared from my account in a single day. My savings, my dreams, my 3 years of sacrifice reduced to a zero balance and a confirmation email. I sat in my apartment that night, eating ramen noodles because I couldn't afford the grocery run I had planned, and told myself it would be worth it. Family was worth it. For the next few months I rebuilt. Slowly. $20 here, $50 there. I fixed my car myself using YouTube videos, which saved me $800 in mechanic fees. I signed up for a cooking class at the community center, learning to make pasta from scratch because dried pasta was cheaper than the pre-made stuff and tasted better too. I started running in the mornings both because gym memberships were expensive and because I needed something to focus on besides the growing resentment in my chest. I called my parents every week to check in. My father always sounded tired. My mother always had news about Madison's wedding planning. Neither of them mentioned paying me back. I didn't bring it up. The strong one doesn't ask for money back. The strong one doesn't make people feel guilty. Then I saw the Facebook post. I was scrolling through my feed during my lunch break when it popped up. My mother tagged at a beachfront resort in Mexico. The photo showed her and my father holding margaritas tanned and smiling with the caption, "Sometimes you just need to get away and recharge. Blessed to have this time together." I stared at the photo for a full minute. Mexico. They had gone to Mexico. While I was eating instant ramen and taking the bus because my car's brake pads were worn to nothing and I couldn't afford to replace them yet. I scrolled further. More photos. My mother at a spa. My father on a golf course. Dinner at what looked like an expensive restaurant. All posted within the last week. The next post was about Madison's bridal shower. My mother had purchased a set of designer luggage as a gift. The kind that costs more than I made in a month. I closed the app. Took a breath. Opened my banking app instead. I had automatic transfers set up, sending $200 a month to my parents to help with expenses. It had been my idea, implemented a month after the initial $20,000. They hadn't asked for it, but I had felt guilty. What if they needed more help? What if things got worse? I stared at the recurring transaction screen. My finger hovered over the cancel button. They had gone to Mexico. I pressed cancel. Then I blocked my parents' phone numbers from setting up automatic bill pay on my account. I changed my banking passwords. I sat back in my desk chair and felt something shift inside my chest. It wasn't quite relief. It wasn't quite anger. It was something harder, colder. It was the sound of something breaking that had been cracked for a very long time. That evening, my phone started ringing. I had forgotten to block their numbers from actually calling me, only from accessing my finances. I watched my mother's name flash on the screen once, twice, 3 times. Then my father's. Then Madison's. I didn't answer. A text came through. Haley, the payment didn't go through. Is everything okay? I typed out a response and then deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Finally, I wrote, I'm fine. The automatic transfer was canceled. Why? Did something happen with your bank? No. I canceled it. 3 dots appeared on my screen. Disappeared. Appeared again. I watched them pulse like a heartbeat, knowing whatever came next would be exactly what I expected. We're counting on that money, Haley. Your father's contracts still haven't come through. My eyes drifted to the tablet beside me where the Facebook app was still open. My mother's face smiled up at me from a beach chair, margarita in hand, the turquoise waters of Mexico sparkling behind her. The caption read, Living Our Best Lives. My thumbs moved across the keyboard with surgical precision. Then maybe you shouldn't have gone to Mexico. I hit send and watched the screen. The 3 dots appeared immediately. Then they stopped. Started again. Stopped. I could almost hear my mother's sharp intake of breath, the frantic whispered conversation with my father. What do we say? How do we explain this? The dots disappeared completely. No response came. The silence was deafening, and somehow it told me everything I needed to know. That silence lasted approximately 4 hours. Then the assault began. My phone lit up like a slot machine. Call after call. Text after text. Voice messages stacking up in my inbox. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea growing cold in my hands and watched the notifications roll in like waves against a shore. My mother went for the jugular first. After everything we've done for you, Haley. We raised you. We fed you. We put you through school. And this is how you repay us. By abandoning us when we need you most. I took a sip of cold tea and deleted the message. My father tried a different approach, his voice heavy with manufactured disappointment. Haley, I don't understand what's gotten into you. This is just a temporary setback. We're family. Family helps each other. That's what you do when you love someone. Delete. Then came Madison, her voice dripping with the kind of concern that made my skin crawl. Hey, it's me. Mom called me crying. She said you cut them off. I know Mom and Dad can be difficult, but they're really struggling right now. Can't you just help them out until Dad's business picks up? You're so good with money. You probably won't even miss it. I stared at that message for a full minute. Won't even miss it. As if $20,000 was pocket change. As if 6 months of $200 payments were nothing. As if I hadn't been eating instant ramen while they dined on resort food. Delete. The messages continued for 2 solid weeks. My mother cycled through every manipulation tactic in the book. Guilt. Shame. Anger. False sweetness. My father sent me articles about the importance of family loyalty. Madison sent me pictures of our childhood as if nostalgia could guilt me into compliance. I responded to none of them. Instead, I did something revolutionary. I focused on myself. I took my car to the auto parts store on a Saturday morning and bought new brake pads. I spent 3 hours in my apartment parking lot watching YouTube videos and installing them myself, my hands covered in grease, my back aching, but my wallet $800 heavier than it would have been. When I finally pressed the brake pedal and felt it respond smoothly, firmly, safely, I felt something close to joy. I went to the grocery store and bought real food. Not ramen. Not generic pasta. I bought fresh vegetables, quality meat, decent wine. I stood in the checkout line watching the total climb and didn't feel guilty. Not once. I enrolled in an advanced financial planning certification course I'd been eyeing for months. The kind of course that would make me even more valuable in the job market. The kind of investment in myself I had been putting off because I might need that money for my parents. And then I did something that would change everything. I started applying for jobs in Seattle. Seattle, where the tech industry was exploding and companies were desperate for talented financial analysts. Seattle, where my skill set could command 40, maybe 50% more than I was making in Portland. Seattle, which was far enough away that unexpected visits would require planning. The first offer came within 2 weeks. Then another. Then a third. I sat in my apartment on a Tuesday evening with 3 job offers spread across my coffee table like a winning hand of cards, and I felt powerful in a way I had never felt before. The Seattle position wasn't just a job. It was a 40% salary increase. A signing bonus that would replenish my savings within 6 months. A title bump. A corner office. It was everything I had worked for, everything I deserved, everything I had delayed because I thought I had to sacrifice for people who didn't even see me. I accepted the offer at 11 o'clock that night, signed the digital contract, watched the confirmation email arrive in my inbox. Then I gave notice at my current job, told my landlord I wouldn't be renewing my lease, started boxing up my life piece by piece. My phone continued to buzz with messages from my family. I left them all unread. They didn't know I was leaving Portland. They didn't know I had a new job. They didn't know anything because for the first time in my life, I wasn't volunteering information. I wasn't checking in. I wasn't managing their emotions or their expectations. I was invisible, but this time by choice. The revelation came on a Thursday evening in early October. I had been in Seattle for 2 months. My apartment was finally starting to feel like home. I had made friends at work. I had joined a running club. I had learned the best coffee shops, the quietest parks, the perfect route along the waterfront. I was unpacking the last box of books when my phone buzzed. A text from Brenda, my parents' neighbor. Sweet Brenda, who had always remembered my birthday when my own parents forgot, who had congratulated me on my college graduation when my parents left early for Madison's art show. Haley, honey, I need to show you something. I'm so sorry. The photo loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, like a horror movie reveal. And when it finally appeared in full resolution, I felt the world tilt sideways. My parents' house. The house I had saved. The house I had poured my dreams into. The house that had cost me everything. Stretched across the front porch was a banner. Custom-made, professionally printed, impossible to miss. Cheerful yellow letters on a blue background, like something you'd see at a graduation party or a celebration. Congratulations, Madison Monroe, for saving our family home. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time, certain I must be misunderstanding. Madison Monroe. Not Haley Monroe. Not our daughters. Not even our family. Madison. My sister, who hadn't contributed a single dollar. My sister, who had been too busy with her wedding, planning to help. My sister, who had somehow become the hero of a story she wasn't even part of. I sat on my floor, phone in hand, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes in my beautiful new apartment, 3 hours away from the people who had just erased me from my own act of generosity. And I felt something I had never quite felt before. It wasn't the hot rush of anger. It wasn't the hollow ache of sadness. It wasn't even surprise. It was cold, crystal clear clarity. This wasn't a mistake. Mistakes are accidental, thoughtless moments that can be explained away. This was deliberate. Someone had ordered that banner. Someone had written out those exact words. Someone had hung it across the front of the house for the whole neighborhood to see. And at no point in that process had anyone thought to themselves, wait, this isn't true. They had rewritten history. They had taken my sacrifice and gift-wrapped it with my sister's name. They had made me invisible in the one story where I should have been the protagonist. My hands were steady as I set the phone down. My breathing was calm. My mind was working with the cool precision of a financial analyst who had just spotted a major discrepancy in the books. And in that moment, sitting on the floor of my Seattle apartment with the evidence of my erasure glowing on my phone screen, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry about this. I wasn't going to call them and scream. I wasn't going to send emotional texts demanding recognition or begging for acknowledgement. That's what the old Haley would have done. The invisible Haley. The Haley who thought she had to earn love through sacrifice and silence. But I was a different Haley now. I was going to do what I did best. I was going to gather data. I was going to build an airtight case. And then I was going to present my findings in a way that left absolutely no room for denial. I stood up, walked to my home office, and powered on my computer. It was 8:30 on a Thursday night. I had work in the morning. It didn't matter. I had a presentation to build. The first night I gathered documentation. Every bank statement from the past year. Every transfer confirmation. Every canceled check. I screenshotted my transaction history, highlighting the $20,000 transfer in bright yellow, impossible to miss. I documented the 6 months of automatic payments, each one, a small piece of evidence that together formed an undeniable truth. The second night, I gathered their documentation. Facebook posts became evidence exhibits. My mother's Mexico vacation photos, each one time-stamped and geotagged. My father on the golf course. The receipt for Madison's designer luggage gift, which my mother had proudly posted with the caption, "Nothing's too good for our Madison. Dinner reservations at expensive restaurants. Entertainment expense. A new television. A backyard renovation." I created a spreadsheet calculating their expenditures during the 6 months I had been supporting them. The number made my stomach turn. They had spent over $6,000 on luxuries while I had been eating ramen and fixing my own car. The third night I built the presentation. I chose a clean professional template, the kind I would use for a board meeting. No emotions. No accusations. Just facts presented with ruthless clarity. The title slide was simple. White background. Black text. 3 words in Arial font size 72. The truth. Slide 2 timeline of events. March 15, request for emergency financial assistance. March 16, $20,000 transferred from Haley Monroe's savings account. Account balances after transfer Suvalfura Kamatreto. Slide 3. Ongoing support. A table showing 6 months of automatic payments. April $200. May $200. June $200. July $200. August $200. September $200. Total $1,200. Below the table, a note in smaller font payment canceled October 1 when donor discovered funds were being used for luxury expenses rather than necessities. Slide 4 donor impact. 2 columns. On the left, savings depleted. Debt incurred. Vehicle maintenance deferred. Nutrition compromised. Housing aspirations delayed indefinitely. On the right, a photo of the condo listing I had been dreaming about with a red X over it. Slide 5, fund utilization. A split screen. On the left, stated purpose mortgage payments utilities, basic necessities. On the right, actual usage international vacation, $3,500 luxury gifts, $800 plus entertainment and dining, $2,000 plus home improvements, $1,500 plus. Below both columns, total discretionary spending during assistance period $7,800. Slide 6, the coup de grace. Comparative analysis. 2 columns side by side like a balance sheet. On the left, Madison's contributions. A big bold zero. $0. On the right, my contributions. $21,200 over 6 months. Below that in smaller text, including initial emergency transfer and ongoing monthly support. Slide 7, projected long-term impact. A graph showing what would have happened if I hadn't stopped the automatic payments. Month by month, climbing toward a 3-year total. The final number at the end of the timeline in red $72,000. Below the number, a single sentence. This represents the donor's entire emergency fund, retirement savings, and home down payment. The final slide was the banner. The photo Brenda had sent me, blown up to fill the entire screen. Those cheerful yellow letters. That name that wasn't mine. Congratulations, Madison Monroe, for saving our family home. Below the photo, 1 line of text, actual savior, Haley Monroe. Actual contribution, $0. Credit received 100%. I saved the presentation to a USB drive. Then I saved a backup to the cloud. Then I saved another backup to an external hard drive. I wasn't taking any chances. I labeled the file The Truth and set it on my desk where I would see it every morning. Then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. 3 weeks later, my phone rang. An unknown number, but the area code was Portland. I almost didn't answer. Then I saw the time 10:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. An unusual time for a spam call. Hello. Haley. It's Aunt Clara, my father's sister. The only member of the extended family who had consistently treated me like I mattered. The woman who had sent me a card for every birthday, who had asked about my job with genuine interest, who had noticed when I wasn't at family gatherings and called to check on me. Aunt Clara. Hi. Honey, I'm calling because I think there's something you should know. She paused and I heard her take a breath. Your parents are throwing a party this weekend. For Madison. To celebrate her, quote, saving the family home. I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. Are they? You weren't invited. I don't think they've even told you about it. But Haley, I know what really happened. Brenda told me. She was so upset after she sent you that photo. She said you deserved to know what they were doing. She was right. You should be there, Haley. You should be the one being celebrated, not Madison. It's not right. I looked at the USB drive sitting on my desk. The morning sun was hitting it just right, making it gleam. What time does the party start, Aunt Clara? Haley, honey, I don't know if you know about this, but your parents are throwing a party for Madison this weekend to celebrate her saving the house. I think you should be there. I wasn't invited. I know. That's why I'm calling. It's not right. You should come anyway. I smiled. Aunt Clara didn't know the full story, but she knew something was wrong. What time does it start? The party was on Saturday afternoon. I requested the day off work, claiming a personal matter. I drove back to Portland, a 3-hour journey that I spent in silence rehearsing what I would say. But when I pulled up outside my parents' house and saw the banner still hanging there mocking me, I realized I didn't need to say much at all. The data would speak for itself. I had dressed carefully, not in the worn jeans and oversized sweater that had become my uniform during the lean months of helping my parents. I wore a tailored navy blue suit, the one I had bought for my first day at the new job. My hair was pulled back in a neat bun. I looked like what I was, a successful financial analyst who had her life together. I looked like someone who should be taken seriously. The party was in full swing when I walked in. The living room was packed with relatives, friends, neighbors. A buffet table groaned with food. Someone had set up a projector and screen, presumably for a slideshow of family photos. Perfect. My mother saw me first. Her face went through several expressions in rapid succession: surprise, confusion, concern, and finally forced cheerfulness. Haley, what are you doing here? I thought you were in Seattle. I am in Seattle. I drove down for the party. Oh, well, it's just a small family gathering. You know how it is. She was trying to usher me back toward the door, but I stood my ground. I know exactly how it is, Mom. Madison appeared at my mother's elbow, resplendent in a new dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. She looked uncertain, which was unusual for her. Hey, Haley. Long time no see. Hi, Madison. Congratulations on saving the family home. Something flickered in her eyes. Guilt. Confusion. I couldn't tell. My father's voice rang out from across the room. He was standing by the projector screen, microphone in hand, about to begin the presentation. If everyone could gather around, I'd like to say a few words about our Madison. I walked past my mother, past Madison, past the clusters of relatives, and stood beside my father. He looked at me, startled. Haley, I didn't know you were coming. I wouldn't miss this for the world, Dad. But I think you forgot a slide. Before he could respond, I pulled the USB drive from my pocket and held it up. May I? The room had gone quiet. Everyone was staring at us. My father looked helpless, confused. He glanced at my mother, who was frozen by the doorway. I don't understand. You will. I didn't wait for permission. I pulled his USB drive out of the laptop connected to the projector and inserted mine. The screen flickered. My title slide appeared in large, clear letters: The Truth. I heard my mother gasp, saw Madison's face crumple in confusion, felt the entire room lean forward with curiosity. I clicked to the next slide. In March of this year, I said, my voice steady and clear, my parents called me. They were in financial trouble. They needed $20,000 or they would lose their home. The slide showed the bank transfer. Date, time, amount. Undeniable. I gave them the money. It wiped out 3 years of savings. I had been planning to buy a condo. Instead, I saved my parents' house. Click. Next slide. The monthly contributions appeared. For the next 6 months, I sent them $200 every month. Money I couldn't really afford. Money I gave because they were my family and I thought they needed it. Click. The vacation photos appeared. My mother's margarita. My father's golf clubs. The expensive restaurant. While I was eating ramen noodles and taking the bus because I couldn't afford to fix my car, my parents were vacationing in Mexico. The room erupted in whispers. I saw heads turning toward my parents. My mother's face had gone chalk white. My father looked like he might be sick. When I realized how my money was being spent, I stopped the automatic payments. I moved to Seattle. I started rebuilding my life. Click. The banner photo appeared. And then I saw this. Congratulations, Madison Monroe, for saving our family home. I turned to look at my sister. She was staring at the screen, her face a mask of shock and something else. Betrayal. Madison didn't save your house. I did. The final slide appeared. The number $72,000 filled the screen. That's how much I calculated I would have given them over 3 years if I hadn't stopped. That's what they expected from me. That's what they were willing to take from me while giving someone else the credit. I pulled the USB drive out and faced the room. My name is Haley Monroe. For 3 years, I gave my parents $72,000, including the initial $20,000 that saved their home from foreclosure. Not Madison. Me. The silence was deafening. Then chaos. People started talking at once. Some directed questions at my parents. Others approached me. I saw Aunt Clara making her way toward me, tears streaming down her face. But I only looked at my mother. She was crying now, her hands covering her face. My father stood beside her, looking 10 years older than he had 5 minutes ago. How could you? Madison's voice cut through the noise. She wasn't talking to me. She was staring at our parents with a mixture of horror and rage. How could you let me take credit for this? Madison, honey, we can explain, my mother started. Don't. Madison's voice was sharp. Don't you dare. She turned to me. Haley, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. They told me they had taken out a loan. They said the house was fine. I had no idea you. I know, I said quietly. This isn't about you, Madison. It's about them. I looked at my parents one more time. My mother was sobbing. My father couldn't meet my eyes. I didn't do this to humiliate you, I said. My voice was calm. Matter of fact, I did this to present the truth. If the truth humiliates you, that's not my fault. I walked toward the door. People parted for me like I was Moses at the Red Sea. Aunt Clara caught my arm as I passed. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I squeezed her hand and kept walking. Behind me, I could hear my mother's sobs, Madison's angry questions, the buzz of shocked conversation. I didn't look back. I drove back to Seattle that night. My phone exploded with calls and texts. Some from relatives who were supportive, calling me brave. Others from relatives who called me cruel, saying I should have handled this privately. I blocked them all. I wanted peace. 2 weeks later, my parents showed up at my apartment. I hadn't given them my address, but Aunt Clara must have. They looked terrible. My mother's face was drawn and pale. My father had lost weight. They stood in my doorway looking like strangers. Can we come in? My father asked. I almost said no, but curiosity won out. I let them in, watched them perch uncomfortably on my new couch, the one I had bought with my signing bonus. We came to apologize, my mother said. Her voice was hoarse, like she had been crying for days. Maybe she had. What we did was unforgivable. I didn't respond. We were wrong, my father continued. We took advantage of you. We took you for granted. We let Madison take credit for your sacrifice. There's no excuse for that. Why did you do it? I asked. My voice was steady. I was genuinely curious. My mother twisted her hands in her lap. You were always so strong, Haley. So independent. You never seemed to need us the way Madison did. And Madison, she needs validation. She needs to be the hero. We thought. You thought I wouldn't mind being erased. We didn't think about how it would affect you, my father said quietly. We just thought about what was easiest for us. What would make Madison happy? What would make us look good? We didn't think about you at all. At least they were honest. We want to make it right, my mother said. We're going to sign over half the house to you. It's only fair. You saved it. You should own part of it. I looked at them for a long moment. Then I shook my head. No. But I don't want the house, I said. That house represents nothing but a ledger of lies. It's not my home. It was never my home. It was just a place where I learned to be invisible. Haley, I want you to leave now. My mother started crying again. My father put his arm around her. Is there anything we can do? He asked. Anything at all. I thought about it. You can start telling the truth. To Madison. To your friends. To yourselves. Stop pretending I don't exist. Stop erasing me from your stories. That's all I want. They left. I watched from my balcony as they walked to their car, 2 old people who had never looked older. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt nothing. No, that's not true. I felt finished. Over the following months, things changed. Madison called me. We had a long, painful conversation where she apologized for not questioning the banner, for not wondering where the money had really come from. She admitted that our parents had always positioned her as the golden child, and she had been comfortable in that role. She said she was in therapy now, working through her own issues with our family dynamics. I appreciated her honesty, but I wasn't ready to rebuild that relationship yet. Maybe someday. My parents sent me letters. Long rambling apologies that tried to explain decades of behavior in a few pages. I read them once, then filed them away. I wasn't ready to forgive. Maybe I never would be. But I was okay with that. I threw myself into my new life in Seattle. I excelled at my job, earning a promotion within 6 months. I joined a running club and made actual friends, people who saw me, who listened when I talked, who valued my opinions. I bought quality furniture for my apartment. I learned to make perfect homemade pasta. I adopted a cat named Debit. I was happy. On the 1-year anniversary of the party, I sat on my balcony with a glass of good wine and thought about everything that had changed. I had lost my family, but I had gained myself. I had stopped being invisible. I had learned that being strong didn't mean accepting mistreatment. It meant having the courage to walk away. I thought about the $72,000. It was gone, unrecoverable, a bad investment. But I had learned to write it off, just like I had written off my relationship with my parents. Some losses you just have to accept. I raised my glass to the Seattle skyline, glittering in the twilight. To being visible, I said to no one in particular. To being valued. To being enough. The city lights sparkled back at me, 1,000 points of light in the darkness. Each one a promise, a possibility, a future that belonged entirely to me. I smiled and took a sip of wine. It was excellent. Everything in my life now was excellent because I had chosen it for myself. Silence isn't weakness. It's data collection. It's strategy. It's the calm before you dismantle someone's narrative with facts they can't deny. And leaving isn't failure. It's the ultimate win. It's choosing yourself when everyone else has chosen someone else. It's refusing to be invisible in your own story. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was Haley Monroe, senior financial analyst, runner, pasta maker, cat owner, and most importantly, someone who knew her worth. And that finally was enough. Have you ever been the invisible one in your family? The one who gave everything but got no credit? What would you have done in my situation? Would you have confronted them publicly or handled it differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more stories about standing up, speaking out, and taking back your power. Your story matters. Your voice matters. You matter. Don't let anyone make you invisible.